these are the worst leads ever known to man. I'm not exaggerating when I say that. The next thing that I do, this is huge. This is something I never used to do, but it has really saved me in a lot of instances. If you would have told me during the first 5 years in my real estate business that I worked with buyers often, that I actually enjoyed working with buyers now, or that I found a way to work with buyers that actually was less time consuming than working with sellers, I don't think I would have even believed you. But today I'm gonna be sharing all of the tips, all of the things you want to know about working with buyers and working with buyers well. We have some really important things to talk about today. So if you are a new agent, you definitely are gonna want to stay until the very end. The last tip is probably what I would say is the biggest game changer, like the most important thing. So you are not gonna want to miss anything today. I'll give a little background just in case you're new here. I got my real estate license and began working full-time as a solo real estate agent when I was 18. The first 5 years of the business for me, I was extremely listing heavy. Pretty much all my focus went towards prospecting for sellers, getting seller clients, calling for sell by owners, expired listings, door knocking, basically anything I could do to work with sellers. I actually felt super uncomfortable working with buyers during the first 5 years, which is funny because most new agents start off working with buyers because in a lot of ways it's easier. It requires a lot less of, I guess less like skills. There's a less skill set required. You don't have to give a listing presentation and like compete with other agents. There's just a lot less pressure, I guess you could say. It's a lot easier to get buyers to work with you in a lot of cases and to trust you because it is a little bit less competitive. So usually new agents do end up working with buyers, but for me, like I said, I was 18, so none of my friends were buying houses. I had really nobody that I knew that was about to use me as their real estate agent, and I don't blame them at the time because I really had a lot to learn. But because I worked only with sellers, basically like very, very few buyers for so long, for so many years in the business, I felt like I barely even knew the sale agreement to purchase a home to work with buyers, even though I knew the listing agreement like the back of my hand. But the buying process was just, I guess what I'm trying to say is I barely ever worked with buyers. But now the way that I do things in my business has drastically changed, and I'm so grateful. Although like I said, I definitely never would have believed you if you would have said that I actually enjoyed working with buyers, because before my mindset was always like listings are like you list to last. That's all I really care about. There's no way to have time freedom and work with buyers. There's only a way to have time freedom and work with sellers. And I actually did a whole video sharing a while back how I don't work with sellers at all anymore. I pass all of our seller clients on to my husband because we're now a real estate team. We're a husband and wife real estate team, and I work with only relocation buyers and sometimes buyers in person that are not relocation buyers. So if you want more information on why exactly I did that and why it works well for us, head over to my channel and you can find that video. Let's just get into these tips. So I have a handful of tips. These are things that really have helped me enjoy working with buyers and just make the whole process go super, super well. The first tip is very important, and that is always have a buyer consultation. Never, ever just meet the buyer at the house. That was all I ever used to do, and I think that's what a lot of agents still do. Comment below, I'd love to hear what you do. But I think it's still pretty common for a lot of agents to just meet the buyer at the house and kind of go from there. I never do that anymore, and let me tell you, having this buyer consultation has drastically changed, I believe, how working with buyers goes for me. So I either do this consultation over the phone or over Zoom. I think this makes such a big difference because, for one, it really establishes the relationship and it gives the buyers a sense of loyalty to you. It is extremely, extremely rare that I have a buyer consultation and the buyers don't end up working with me. And before I started doing these buyer consultations, that would happen all the time. I think that having this consultation really establishes a sense of like, okay, this is how the process works, and you stick with one agent and they are going to be loyal to you as well. And I do think that is very important. Secondly, I think that this has helped me not have issues in the transaction, especially like relationally with the client. I used to have clients mad at me a lot, and I think it was because, well, for one, like I said, when I was new, I was 18, I had a lot to learn, and I had to learn pretty much everything in my business through trial and error and just through like failing until I learned. So I really didn't know anything about anything when I first started, but a lot of the problems that would happen with, you know, clients, especially with buyer clients, when I was newer, before I started doing these buyer consultations, was it all boiled down to a lack of communication. They felt that they didn't know what was going on. And one thing that I always do in this buyer consultation is I walk the buyer through the process, through the home buying process. I lay down that expectation of what to expect, how things are gonna go. There's a lot to cover. Like, I could do a whole video just about like the consultation and how to do it. It's super simple. It's really nothing fancy. I don't have like a script or a formula or anything. I kind of like, it depends on the person, like where the conversation goes, because if they've sold a bunch of homes before or bought a bunch of homes before, I don't want to insult them and give them this whole speech that they don't need. And, you know, I don't want them to think I think that they don't know what to do, if that makes sense. But with all that being said, just laying down the expectations up front of what to expect is going to make such a big difference in just not having miscommunications. And I have found that things go so smoothly when you do a buyer consultation. Number 2 is professionalism. This is something I learned the hard way. I am extremely passionate about giving my clients the most excellent service possible. When I got into the business, like I said, I was so young, I didn't know anything. I had like no experience with literally anything. And I was late to almost every appointment. I was overconfident, even though I had no reason to be. I didn't do any preparation. I literally just winged everything. And now I do things the complete opposite. I'm always gonna be there. You know, I'm still the type of person that is definitely not, gonna say, I can't say that I'm never late to anything. I'm definitely still the type of person that is more relaxed with my time and do show up late to things if it's not a one-on-one thing. I think if it's a one-on-one thing, it's really rude. But if it's like a group thing, then like, I'm definitely not the kind of person that's usually on time. However, when it comes to my clients, I am always gonna be early. If for some crazy thing happens and I am running like 3 minutes late even, I'm calling my client on the way there, apologizing and giving them a heads up, like literally even if it's 3 minutes, because I don't want to waste their time, and I just think that is like the professional thing to do. So now I really take professionalism seriously. The next thing that I do is I always print out the MLS sheet for the home that I'm showing, and I get a good look at it. I try to like memorize what I can, or just like know the home, study the home. Like I said, I never did this before because I winged everything, but now I try to be over prepared. So I really study the MLS sheet and just know about the homes before I get to them, which this is so simple. It doesn't take that much time. You're probably already doing it, but I didn't know. I don't just print one MLS sheet. I always print 2 MLS sheets. And the reason I do this is because I give one MLS sheet. And if you're not familiar with MLS sheet, that's basically just like the multiple listing services information of the home. So it has square footage, your bill, tax information, all of that. So I will give one copy to the client, and then I hold another copy throughout the entire showing, and I print. So if I'm showing like 5 houses, I'm printing all of the MLS sheets. They're gonna be in order of which one I'm showing, you know, so just to keep things simple. But I always have a MLS sheet for myself to carry around in the house as well, because that way if the client asks me a question that is on the MLS sheet, even though I gave them a sheet, I can just glance down and quickly look at it and give them the answer. The fourth thing that I do is I bring a clipboard with me, which is what I put the MLS sheet on, and I carry a measuring tape in my pocket. Those are things I just started doing recently. Okay, the clipboard, I don't know, I just feel like there's something about carrying around a clipboard that just makes you look like a little bit more of a professional, like I'm gonna take you seriously. So I like to have my clipboard. Obviously only if I'm showing homes in person. A lot of my clients, they're not here in person when I show them, so I don't bring the clipboard, but I will bring the clipboard. And then I also have a measuring tape in my pocket when the client's here in person. I do not just advertise to them that I have a measuring tape with me, because otherwise they might end up measuring rooms in like every random house we see, even if it's a house that they really don't have interest in writing an offer in. However, if we get to a point where they're in a house for a while, I can tell they're super interested, they are considering writing an offer, I hear them start talking about, oh, it would be nice to know what the measurement of this room is, that is when my measuring tape comes in handy. I whip it out of my pocket and I can give it to them, and they always really appreciate that. The next thing that I do, this is huge, this is something I never used to do, but it has really saved me in a lot of instances, just a lot of time. I always put the listing agent's phone number in the notes in my phone. So what I mean by that is I always write out in the notes section of my phone, I write out all of the homes that we're gonna be showing. Say we're gonna be seeing 5 different houses. I'm gonna write the addresses in the notes in my phone in order of how we're showing them, like what ones we're seeing first. And I always write the listing agent's cell phone number underneath the address of the home that they're listing, or that we're gonna go see their listing. And the reason I do this is because I know their phone number is on the MLS sheet, but if you write their number out in the notes in your phone, then you have the ability to just like click on that and immediately text or call them without having to go through the work to like type in manually the number. And this really is helpful. I use this for 2 reasons. The first is, say I'm showing a house and the buyer asks me a question that isn't on the MLS or that I just don't have the answer to, I'm able to tell them, you know what, I don't know that, but I'm texting the listing agent right now, and usually they get back to me pretty quickly, sometimes even before we leave the house. So it's easy because I'm able to text them before I even forget about it. I always tell the client, like, I'm texting them right now when I take my phone out, so they don't just think I'm like pulling up Facebook or something during our showing. And then the second thing, this is what's really saved me, is when you have a long line of showings, or even just a few showings, you oftentimes, you can time it the best that you can with driving times, and depending on, choosing how long you think you're gonna be in the house for, you can schedule the showings the best that you can. But sometimes you are just gonna be either late to a showing or early to a showing. And there were a lot of times in the past, before I started doing this, when I was like a newer, inexperienced agent, when we would be like 30 minutes early to a showing, for example, because our other showings got done a lot quicker than we had expected. And I'm fumbling around on Zillow, looking for the listing agent's number, trying to get a hold of them because I'm telling them, I needed them to tell their client that we're gonna be there early or ask if that's okay. Or I literally would just show up to the house and the seller would be there like not prepared for us because it wasn't our time yet, or there'd be another showing. So this really has made things so easy because I have access to, I can tell, like while we're still at the prior showing, I can tell if we're gonna be a little bit early or a little late to any of the showings, and I can just pull up that phone number and text or call the listing agent right away and give them a heads up, and everything goes like so smoothly. It's really just the best way to prepare and not have any surprises. The last tip that I think is the most important when it comes to working with buyers and making it a seamless, easy, awesome, effortless thing is the type of clients that you work with, the type of buyers. So there's a few different buyers that I have worked with, a few different types of buyers that I've worked with in the past in my real estate business, and I will share them with you. So the first type of buyer is buyers that come from Instagram or Facebook. These buyers tend to be younger in age, like younger demographic, usually, for me at least. Maybe this is different for your Instagram and Facebook, but for my Instagram and Facebook, the people that I have had reach out to me to work with them as their real estate agent in the past are almost always first-time buyers. I enjoy working with them because as a younger real estate agent, it is refreshing working with people that are your own age or close to your age at least, when you're so used to working with people that are like way older than you. I enjoy it. I think that it's fun, but this is the toughest price point. They are almost always the buyers that are like barely qualified, barely have the money for the down payment, need their closing costs paid for by the seller. They are working in the most competitive price range. They are driving like over here and over there because they can't afford to just be in one specific area, and just a lot harder buyers to work with, and just a lot more time, I guess, for your money, if that makes sense, for what you make. The second type of buyer that I have worked with in the past is Zillow leads. Now, these are the worst leads ever known to man, let me tell you. I'm not exaggerating when I say that. So Zillow leads, you can get a great return on your investment working with Zillow leads. I know plenty of agents do that. I know you can make this work as a business model. You can spend a lot of money a month on Zillow and get a return, but you're gonna be literally working your butt off to do it. These are not easy money leads. Like, you get the leads that come in, they're like leads that you are like working hard to convert, any of them, and they're not loyal. And that's all I'm gonna say. Worst leads ever. Does anyone still buy Zillow leads? Do you still buy Zillow leads? Like, if you're listening to this, I'd love to hear about that. If you buy them, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear how that's going, or if you've bought them in the past, I'd love to hear how it went. Let's chat about it in the comment section. The third type of buyer client, so this is the last type that I discovered, that I found, and the type that I stick with, is the relocation buyer clients. There's a handful of ways to get relocation clients, and I get them from YouTube. So you could call it the relocation client, or you could call it the YouTube client. However, these clients are the most loyal clients. You do not have to do any following up, chasing, convincing them to work with you. None of that. They are extremely loyal. And secondly, you really don't have to work with that many of them in order to make a really great living. I can work with such a small amount of clients, and basically that means work so much less than I used to compared to before, and make a lot more, because for some reason these clients they're ready to go, they're approved, they're serious qualified buyers, and they are in much higher price points than absolutely any other lead type I have ever seen. I have spent years intentionally trying, like reading books about, praying about, trying whatever I could to try to raise my average price point in real estate, and I got to a point where it honestly seemed impossible. And this has really been the thing, and it's just such a beautiful, beautiful thing when you're able to only sell a few houses but make way more than you used to selling a ton of houses, and it just gives you so much freedom. And so with all of that being said, talking about relocation clients, if you want to know how we might be able to help you get the literal best clients that you have ever worked with in your entire life coming straight to your email inbox begging to work with you, let me know. I'd love to chat with you. My email address is below. Email me. Feel free to leave any real estate related questions below and we can get to them in a future video. If you have a client relocating to Oregon, send them my way. I would love to give you a referral fee. Don't forget to head over to our channel. We have a handful of playlists that you might find helpful, and we'll see you next week.